Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahabashai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, because those are the men who I learned the truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahabashai. Yahweh is the true name of the God of Israel. Yahabashai is who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one and only true name is Yahabashai. And pretty much in this video, I'm going to be going over the origin of nuclear missiles and show you how, according to end time prophecy, nuclear war in the form of World War III, it's very biblical. All right. And all these current events that you see between the Muslim countries, mainly Iran versus the Zionist created state of Israel, all of that is end time prophecy. And what is the Lord doing right now in these last days? He's gathering nations into the valley of Jehoshaphat. He's drying up the river Euphrates to make ways for those neighboring nations, all right? Because that's where he wants to assemble them at for World War III. And why is World War III happening? Because of what they did to the children of Israel. All right. Ultimately, the end game of this is that America, which is Babylon the Great, is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. The Zionist created state of Israel, that's going to be destroyed, but that land is going to be built back up under the true Jews, the true Israelites, all right, by the heathen nations. They're going to build up our walls, as it says in Isaiah, the 60th chapter, all right? You're also going to have divine intervention to where Yahushua, Michael the archangels, a bunch of angels, they're going to deliver the elect of the nation of Israel before the destruction takes place. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this is Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14. It says the second woe is past. The second woe is referring to World War II, because when you read in the scriptures, there's 3 world wars that's prophesied to happen. All right, the first one took place, the second one took place, and then it's telling you that one more is going to come quickly after World War II. All right, so let's read a little bit about this. I already did a video on this concerning Albert Pike, which he was a famous free MASON, and this is what he said. This is how World War III is going to start. It says a third world war will occur between the political Zionists, and what's a Zionist? Anybody that supports the state of Israel, right? And the leaders of the Islamic world. So this is why you see some chess players on the board always clashing, as far as Iran, which are Persians, the Carmanians, versus the Edomites, the Zionist created state of Israel. All right. So it says, in the leaders of the Islamic world, the war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. It says, meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. And ultimately, what they want is, after this World War III, which is not going to take place, they want the Zionist created state of Israel to have world domination. All right. This is Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, because ultimately the Lord uses men for his purpose on the planet Earth. As you read in Psalms chapter 17, verses 13 and 14, and all throughout the scriptures, the Lord controls every single last one of us according to what? His foreordained or predestined will. So whatever thoughts or actions, even things you speak, how your life turns out, It's a thought of the Most High. All right. So the Lord used these Edomites to create nuclear missiles. It says, behold, I have created the smith, right? These nuclear scientists that blow off the coals in the fire and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. Let's keep that precept there and let's show you what it's talking about. So on Google, as we always break down here at Great Millstone, this goes into the Manhattan Project, right? So I typed in Manhattan Project, scientists, AI overview. The Manhattan Project, 1942 through 1946, was a massive World War II effort employing hundreds of scientists led scientifically by J. Robert Oppenheimer at Los Alamos. Key figures included Haynes Beatty, right, the theory, and then it says Enrico Fermi, the reactors, Ernest Lawrence, the uranium separation, and Glenn Seaborg, the plutonium, alongside many European refugees like Leo Szilard and Edward Teller. All right. Scientists and roles. J. Robert Oppenheimer, theoretically physicist and scientific director of the Los Alamos Laboratory, and his nickname is known as what? The father of the atomic bomb, right? Then you got this particular individual, Enrico Fermi, an Italian physicist who created the first controlled nuclear chain reaction, and that's in the Chicago Pile-1. It says Haynes Beatty, head of the theoretical division at Los Alamos, critical for calculating bomb efficiency. So the reason why Robert J. Oppenheimer gets the credit is because he was the director of this group that I'm reading about. That's why he gets the credit. That's why he's known as the father of bombs, right? It says Ernest O. Lawrence developed electromagnetic separation for uranium -235 at Berkeley, right? It says Glenn T. Seaborg, chemist who identified and isolated plutonium. Leo Szilard conceived the nuclear chain reaction and urged the U.S. to start a nuclear program. All right. Edward Teller, key theoretical physicist who worked on the atomic bomb while pushing for the super hydrogen bomb. It says Arthur Compton, head of the metallurgical laboratory at the University of Chicago. It says Kenneth Bainbridge directed the Trinity test, the first nuclear explosion. It says Otto Frisch, British-based physicist who calculated the critical mass of U-235. All right? So, I mean, you get the point. So these are the Edomites, or the men that the Lord used to create the waster that destroy. Isaiah 54:16, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster, which is the nuclear missiles, to destroy. And he did that through Robert Oppenheimer and his team. All right? Because each of his team, right, his co-workers, they specialize in different fields. And when they came together under the director, Robert J. Oppenheimer, that's how the nuclear missiles was created. All right? This is Revelation chapter 9 and verse 14. It says, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Now, the scriptures talk about, the seven trumps. The seventh trump, that's when YAHSHAWAR is going to come back, right? We're in between the sixth and the seventh trump. So that's how we know that YAHSHAWAR is getting ready to come back. All right, when you read Revelation, the 7th chapter, like the first 3 verses, the Lord is holding back the winds in the form of what? These angels. These angels are blocking the minds of these particular world leaders to not launch nuclear bombs yet until specific prophecies come to pass in the form of Jacob's trouble, which involves a global economic collapse in order to usher in a cashless digital society, digital payments, and that new system that's going to be digital of buying and selling, that's going to revolve around the mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip implant, which, by the way, the central bankers, aka the Zionists, they control all countries through the central bank. America has a central bank in the form of what? The Federal Reserve, which is its own private entity. All right? So that's what it's talking about. Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. So the more these prophecies start to come to pass, the Lord commands these angels to what? Put the minds on these particular world leaders, according to prophecy, to what? Get prepared for war, start doing military drills, launch nuclear missiles eventually, right? So it says, and the 4 angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay the third part of men, right? Referring to the Edomites ultimately, a third of them, referring to America, right? Because ultimately we know that when you look at a FEMA map, it's divided into 10 regions. So if you take a third part out, that's 33.3%. What could do that? Because America has over 334 million people in it. So what could take out a third of Americans? Nuclear missiles. It says, and the number of the army of the horsemen, this ain't talking about literal horsemen. It's talking about the nuclear missiles. It says, were 200,000. What John the Revelator is describing is the warheads that's within the nuclear missile, right? And I heard the number of them, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, because he's receiving these visions while he's on the island of Patmos, which was one of 3 criminal islands the Roman government banished people to, that spoke out against the government. Maybe they committed a crime, right? And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire. Now John the Revelator is describing the material, the design of these nuclear missiles. It says, having breastplates of fire and adjacent and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. So he's looking at his vision, how the nuclear missile works, the design of it, how it looks. So he has to describe it according to the vocabulary he had at his present time. All right? John the Revelator, he didn't know what the hell a nuclear missile is, a cruise missile. A missile, they didn't have that type of technology. They had things similar to it, like an arrow or something, right? So that's why the scriptures, it may refer to a nuclear missile as arrows or something that's based off of ancient world, weaponry, because that's the vocabulary they had at that time. There was no nuclear missiles, right? It says, verse 18, because what horseman, first of all, what horseman or horse is going to have fire, smoke, and brimstone issuing out of their mouth, meaning coming out of their mouth? So obviously it ain't talking about an actual horseman or a horseman. Come on, man. Verse 18, it says, by these 3, the third part of men was killed, referring to the Edomites, right, here in America, by the fire. Scriptures talk about lake of fire, right? It says, and by the smoke and by the brimstone, which issue out of their mouths, referring to the warhead. The power of a nuclear missile is in the head part, the front part, which John is describing. Is he going to go into it? Which issue out of their mouths, for their power is in their mouth. That's why he compared it to what? A lion. Where's the power of a lion at? In his teeth. So he's making that reference to what? The power of the nuclear missile is in the warhead. That's why it said 200,000, because within all these warheads that's being shot off, you got a bunch of missiles that's in it, right? There's multiple warheads within a nuclear missile. So it ain't just one country that just got one missile. It's a bunch of countries that got multiple missiles in it. Whether it be the East Wind, the Dongfeng, whether it be the Satan II or the Cermat nuclear missile, whatever. It says, and in their heads, for their tails, the propeller that propels the missile, were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. Yeah, because when it lands, it's going to destroy everything. So that's it with that. So now let's read the AI overview to Revelation 9:14 through 20. Okay, so it finally popped up. So I typed in Revelation 19:14 through 20 nuclear missiles. This is what popped up, AI overview. It says, is often interpreted by some prophecy scholars as a description of modern advanced warfare, including nuclear missiles, due to the intense imaginary of fire, smoke, and brimstone, killing a third of mankind. While the text does not explicitly mention nuclear weapons, the description of a massive, technologically driven lethal assault has led to this interpretation. So even top scholars who the Lord opened up their understanding to, even they know that this is dealing with the last days and that World War III is going to be fought with nuclear capability. All right. Key details from Revelation 9:14 through 20. The sixth trumpet, 4 angels bound at the okay, so they're going off right there because that's not literal. The Bible is not a fable mythological book. All right. See? So they take things literal. All right, so that's pretty much it. Let's see what else they got here. Okay, here we go. Interpretation as nuclear/modern warfare, modern weaponry. It says the description of horses with heads of lions and tails like serpents emitted fire/smoke is seen by some as John describing modern unknown technology, tanks, missiles, or aircraft using the language available in the first century. Now check that out. So when we say John the Revelator is speaking according to his vocabulary, he's speaking according to what vocabulary? The first century. All right. It says power in their power in their tails. This is frequently interpreted as description of missiles, rockets, or jets, which leave a smoke trail and explode. Yeah, because when you read in the beginning of the chapter, it's going into World War I. All right. When you read on Revelation 9, it's going into World War I, and then it tells you at verse 12, 2 more woes come hereafter. All right. So when you read verse 1, when you read the first couple of verses from verse 1 in chapter 9 of Revelation, it's talking about World War I with Kaiser Wilhelm II, so forth and so on. Talk about World War I. It says, continuing on, it says, yep, I'm gonna read that again. Power in their tails, if I haven't read already, this is frequently interpreted as a description of missiles, rockets, or jets, which leave a smoke trail and explode, fire, smoke, and brimstone. This combo is interpreted as a description of nuclear, chemical, or biological destruction. All right. Massive casualty count. The death of 1/3 of mankind implies a war of unprecedented magnitude, such as global nuclear conflict. All right. So people know nuclear missiles in the Bible, Isaiah 9:5, because even Isaiah received visions of Babylon the Great, which is America. He didn't know what that was, but it's in the scriptures for a reason. He saw visions of World War III as proof. Isaiah 9:5, for every battle of the warriors with confused noise, garments swathed in blood. This is how wars were fought in the ancient world. You've watched movies like 300 and plenty of movies that go back to the Greek and Roman, generation. You see how the wars was fought in the ancient world. They didn't use guns and stuff like that. They didn't have bulletproof vests. It was just raw skill. My army, my men versus your men. Now today is different, right? Now they got more advanced warfare, because the scripture say in Daniel the 12th chapter that wisdom and knowledge would be increased. Talk about literal wisdom, but it's also talking about technology. It says, but this shall be, so it's a difference. He said, but this shall be with burning fuel of fire. Referring to what? World War III, nuclear missiles. All right? Now check this out. I typed in Isaiah 9:5. Nuclear war, right? Having fun with the AI overview. States, right? I'm not reading that again. It says, while this verse does not explicitly mention nuclear war, a concept unknown in the 8th century BC, when Isaiah prophesied, it is frequently interpreted by prophecy scholars and commentators in the context of apocalyptic final days destruction. All right? Check that out. Check that out. So you think here at Great Millstone, we just coming up with our own break? Nah, it's the Holy Spirit. And where you think they get that from? They get it from us, from studying us. Because what's going to be the end result of World War III? The destruction of the Zionist created state of Israel, right? And Babylon the Great, which is America. So Ezekiel 38 and 15, it says, and thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, referring to Russia and the allies, thou and many people with thee, read the verses above, right? All of them riding upon horses, and a great company and a mighty army, because they all teamed up and allied together. Remember, a world war is global conflict. All right? Remember that. That's what a world war is. You got situations going on in the Caspian, Black Sea. That's one conflict, right? Then you got conflicts between America and Russia. That's a conflict. America and Iran. That's a conflict. Israel and Iran. That's a conflict. You got a bunch of nations having conflicts with each other. So if it's global now, it ain't just two nations. Now you got global conflict. Now you got world war, right? It says, and thou shalt come up against my people of Israel, which ain't talk about that. It's talk about the land, all right? It's talking about the people that currently are in the land, pursuant to Ezekiel 36:5, which are these devils. All right, these people right here, they're a bunch of lying devils. All right, can't stand none of you. Now, jump it back. It says, as a cloud to cover the land, because it's going to be surrounded, right? It shall be in the latter days. It ain't talking about, it's talking about the land, Jerusalem, talking about Israel. It says, and it shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O God, before their eyes. Because the Lord is going to be with Russia to lead the weaker nations like Iran and their allies against Israel and America, whoever is allies with them. It says, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by the servants, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years, that I will bring thee against them? Yeah. Come on. World War III been talked about since the Old Covenant. They've been getting visions of America, Jeremiah, Isaiah, so forth and so on. The prophets been waiting for this. It says, verse 18, and it shall come to pass at that same time when Gog, right, shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Lord Yahweh, that my fury shall come up in my face. What's going to come up in his face? The mushroom cloud for the nuclear missile. Verse 19, for in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. What the hell gonna cause it to shake? A nuclear missile. All right. That's one target down. Then this is gonna be the end result as well. Revelation 18:7. It says, how much she have glorified herself, referring to America, Babylon the Great, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, meaning her mind. This is the mindset of every American. proud to be an American, right? Just pride. Nobody could take us down. You know, we never technically had a terrorist attack. So a bunch of shit I could say. It says, and live deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I set a queen, right? Because the scriptures refer to America as a whore, right? Babylon the Great as a whore that sitteth upon many waters, meaning different people that ride upon the dragon, which is the EU, the NATO nations, right? It says, continuing on, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. So these things got to come to pass first, all right? The death, the mourning, famine. You're going to have the famine of the word. You're going to have a famine, a lack of food supply. Gas is going up because the Persians, the Iranians, they shut off the Strait of Hormuz to whoever is not allied with them, all right? So even if you ally with America, the Strait of Hormuz, which 30% of the world trade go through there, you're not going to be able to use the Strait of Hormuz. So it's affecting what? The global oil supply, all right? It's affecting economies. So these things have to happen first. That's why I've been telling people in my videos, there's going to be a global economic collapse. Not just economic in America, global economic collapse. Because remember, America has the world reserve currency status, to where they made that agreement to do international trade or really buy oil in American dollars. So what's being threatened now? America's world reserve currency status, all right? So before the destruction take place in the form of nuclear, there has to be a global economic collapse. The mark of the beast has to come to pass, all right? It has to be an entirely new system. It can't just be, all right, Iran and Israel, they having problems, they killing each other, world leaders. Okay, the end is going to be tomorrow. No, it's still a lot missing in between that. It says, I set a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire, for strong is the Lord Yahweh who judgeth her. All right? That's going to be the end result, lake of fire. Now, what's the plague? Zechariah 14:12, and this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord, the word Lord is a cap, so let's talk about Yahweh, will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And what's that plague? The nuclear missile. All right? The nuclear missile. The Lord said, I have created the waster to destroy. Let's read this. Because you think it's just Isaiah? You think it's just John the Revelator? You know, you think it's just 3 or 4 prophets? Nah, mad people got visions of nuclear war. I don't mean they all the same. 2nd Ezra 16 and 13. It just means that what? They're all in agreement. They all have similar visions. Some of their visions, it fit details that was missing out of another prophet visions, right? 2nd Ezra 16 and 13. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. The bows talk about nuclear missiles. Talk about the Most High. Because even if these nations come up with nuclear agreements, you know, one particular nation stop another particular nation from building up uranium and, you know, nuclear reactors and pretty much having the resource to create the missiles, even if they was to try and stop it, they can't. For strong is his right hand that bent up the bow, meaning the Most High, Yahweh, because you going to do whatever he want you to do. His arrows, talk about the missiles, because it looked like an arrow. It looked like a giant arrow. It says, his arrows that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss. You got hypersonic missiles that's unblockable. No missile defense system could block a hypersonic missile because it goes Mach 5 speed, which is faster than the speed of sound. They'll go so fast, they'll break through a sound barrier, right? And shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. This ain't happening in the ancient world. This talk about right now. Hopefully in this generation. Hopefully we don't gotta die and come back in the reincarnation, you know, to witness a buildup. Let it happen now. It says, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again. Yeah, so once they shot, they're going to do what the Most High predestinated the missiles to do. It says, it shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer, returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again. Woe is me, who shall deliver me in those days, meaning the future generations, which obviously is going to be Yahushua. All right? So just real quick, Ezekiel 38:39 on the biblical map. You know, you can see the nations, you can see all the tension that's going on. It's all biblical, right? See? Boom. Look at all that going on. Look at all that. You gonna tell me we're not in biblical times? Look at that. Israel's gonna be surrounded by Russia and their allies. They're gonna destroy that filthy ass land. Look at that. Land is filthy because you got the Edomites ruling it. So that's pretty much it. Lord willing, you was edified. Shalom.